I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to and what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan, your own hands can land your own brand. And damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility, convincingly unwilling to put in the hours it takes to get some power. Don't be f***ing sour, take a cold shower. Scream until you're louder, work until you're prouder. And f*** all the doubters, they're just your downers. I swear to God they all let me down. I always fought.
I can tell you that 7 years after Freddie Gray, that was 2015, spring, April, May. This is 2022. Communities like Sandtown, all we saw then and now in terms of investment was a renovated Western District Police Station and a new funeral home. That's what West Baltimore got. A new police station and a new funeral home. What kind of optics are they? Was Freddie Gray any different than 1968 Baltimore riots? Dr. King's passing, killing, murder? This is the same?
No, it wasn't. I mean, I think, well, first of all, people who are doing violence and burning, that's, you know, all that's the same. But the point is what was the cause and what were they attempting to register?
I always fought just to wear the crown. I'm off at these fucking clowns.
I love you.
They deserve an ounce. It's
got next.
It's only worth it if you work for it. I won't stop till they hear me now. I won't stop till I wear the crown. I swear to God they all let me down. I always fought just to wear the crown.
Good morning. First name's Donnie, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Okay, so today's guest is Dr. LaNysha T. Adams, Ph.D. And there's an event coming up. A little late getting together here. A book reading and signing event featuring the good doctor, who is the author of Me Power. Welcome to the show, Dr. LaNysha Adams. Good morning to you.
Good morning. It's so great to be with you today, Mr. Glover.
Oh, you are a morning person, I see.
I have a 2 and a 4-year-old, and you know they get up really early, and so I have to be on my A game usually.
Two and 4.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, my God, we gotta pray. We gotta pray the blood over you. 2 and 4.
Boys.
2 and 4. I got a granddaughter 2, but see the beauty of being a grandparent, you can leave them.
Yeah.
I can.
Bye-bye, you pop in and out.
And I find it just so fulfilling to leave them with a bag of candy. No, I haven't done that. But I have thought to do that. Just slide them a bag of candy.
That's amazing. Awesome.
You wouldn't like that. You're like, I can't believe you gave my baby all of this sugar.
I would be sliding it to the left. My husband loves candy, so you know he'd be eating it.
Chocolate. Big bag of chocolate. Okay.
Oh, man.
So I want to first ask you about this PR lady that you have working for you.
Mm-hmm.
Where?
Yeah,
Huh?
fancy.
Where did you find her?
Well, she found me. I mean, in terms of looking at marketing and thinking about your target audience and who you want to work with, she's very intentional. She said, you know, I saw your LinkedIn profile. We're connected to a lot of the same people. And so she slid in to the DMs and said, hey, like, you know, I see that you are coming out with a book, and I'm very interested in working with people exactly like you. And I looked at her profile, I was like, what does that exactly mean? And so we started having a conversation. It was amazing because at that time I was looking for someone to really help me with thinking about strategy, thinking about how to promote the book. And I wasn't done yet with the whole process. And so she gave me some tips, and we just kind of kept in touch, and she stayed in touch over months. So
I was impressed with this young lady.
yeah.
In hosting shows, we have hosts in 6 cities: New York, Baltimore, Atlanta, DC, and then out on the West Coast, LA and Oakland. So we're always looking for more people to say hello. As a matter of fact, this is our general manager right here. And I know she's in New York City. We're going to see her Friday. We have Black Wall Street up in Harlem. But I am certain that Tasmir Gathers would love to have you on her show as well. She runs the DM firm, and they advise businesses. She is also the creator of the Brunch Pitch, which has been done in Brooklyn, Harlem, and Baltimore. So she's looking to bring it to a town near you. Where are you?
Yeah, I'm based in the DC area. I live in Silver Spring, Maryland. And so Baltimore is just, you know, it's right in my Tri-City area of places I go to a lot.
You got an affirmative right there. Tasmir Gathers. Do check her out on LinkedIn. Okay, so Me Power, you know, your publicist did a wonderful job helping me to understand the significance of this book. And anything that has power in it is all right with me. Empower is even better, and help empower, that's just perfect. So tell me about this Me Power.
Absolutely. I pretty much, many people always say, well, why would you write a book about a word that everyone kind of already understands? And I start with the positionality of I think we take the word empower for granted. And I make the case that for 4 centuries, we need a new kind of definition. And it's interesting because if you look at the word, if you look it up in Webster's, the definition is the act or action of empowering someone or something, the granting of power, right, or the authority to perform different acts. So the first question that I start with is, who is granting the power? Who is authorizing someone else to have what is supposed to come from within themselves? So I have a background in linguistics. I was trained in linguistics as an undergrad, applied linguistics, and all of this, looking at language, looking at the history of words, where they come from, what they mean, and then how those meanings impact like what we do, because that's really that's getting to the bottom of it. So when I took a look at the definition itself, I went to the Oxford English Dictionary, which it's the best resource for looking at language for English. So it has 6,000 words. It has more than 3.5 million entries. It spans 1,000 years. If you really want to know, like, how was a word used and what did people mean when they use different words, you go to that. And so I did this etymological analysis. So it's looking at the root and also all the pieces of the actual word to see, what does this really mean? And what's interesting is I started focusing on the prefix "m", which comes from like French, Old French, and Latin, and it means into or in. And I thought that was interesting because if empowerment is relying on somebody on outside, where's the part that relies on what's inside? And so traditional definitions really assume this like external forces control this process of power. So I started to really kind of pick apart this word after, 4 centuries is kind of a lot of use. And everything pointed back to the same kind of analysis of someone else is enabling power to emerge within you. So I started my question of in my research with the question of what about the power that comes from within that you manifest when you become more of who you are, creating the change and working to really reach your maximum potential. And I can say a lot more about how we get historically that word has meant what it has, and then like how now we really get it wrong. Like we say like, oh, I'm going to empower somebody else to do something. Like, how do you do that?
I
And
can't empower you. I can help empower you. I used to work for the empowerment zone here in Baltimore,
oh wow, yeah,
federally funded $100 million entity to help people with jobs, houses, businesses. I cannot empower you. I cannot empower a brother or sister over to jail. I cannot empower an unemployed person. I can help empower because, as you noted, the person has the power. You can want someone to be free of drugs, but if they don't want it, there's nothing you can do.
absolutely. So that's kind of how I got started with taking a look at what empower is, and then I flipped it on its head. So empower is me power. So if we
But,
look
but,
at,
but I got something for you, though.
yeah, for sure.
Now, I didn't mean to cut you, but
Go ahead.
are you a child of God?
Absolutely.
So, considering that the British are very late compared to the history of mankind, is it time to look at a different language? I mean, after all, English is a bastard language combined of various Germanic tribes' way of speaking.
Mhm.
Maybe there's a synonym in Amharic or one of the older languages, because English is relatively new, right?
That's right.
So I guess the question is, what about the good Lord? Because when you mention anything outside of one's person, another person, the forces of the universe, I mean, I figure if you're connected to the good Lord, to the creator of the universe, you can do anything. I can do all things.
Absolutely. I don't disagree with that. I think, in my background and also in my thinking and in the way I live my life, I want a message that speaks to most people, where most people, a lot of people are not believers. They don't get down like that. And in my thinking, I was like, even if we believe in a higher power, there is a responsibility that we have as individual people to take accountability for our life. And this is where I was very
I
much
agree.
coming from, where on the one hand, some people, they are like, my life is out of my control, and it's really because of the circumstances that I was born into, or look at my past, look at my family, look at what I haven't accomplished, right?
I
And
can't buy
so,
that. I can't
well,
buy being stuck by birth.
no, but some people believe that, and
But there's evidence of people stuck in, who came out of harsh circumstances, who went on to effect global change.
absolutely. And so when I'm looking at the way we think and how we use language to affect that thinking, a lot of times people think that because there's an external force that controls not only the universe, but their individual life, right? That puts you in a position that that way of thinking is not going to help you feel empowered, because you're always looking on the outside. Where's the hand going to come from? Where's my next, who's going to pull me up? Who's going to really uplift me here? And I think that gaze of like, I don't really have control in the thinking. I don't have control over my life in terms of what I can do, the actions that I can take. When we don't occupy a position and challenge that kind of thinking, I think it puts us in this kind of subservient perspective. So on one level, I'm talking about life in 3D. Dr. King talked a lot about this, right? Where we live on the planet Earth, and we are in a universe, and we as human beings did not create that. We all, whether we're atheists, whether we're agnostic, whatever, we all can get down with that as an agreement. So on the one realm, right, and the way that things work on a spiritual level, there's something at play that's much higher. When we look at our individual life, what do we do? What actions do we take? What principles do we put into practice? What's our belief system around what guides our action? That also is one layer, one dimension. And then the other dimension is how we commune with others and how we kind of uplift one another, or if we don't believe in that, then how our actions affect somebody else. And I think that when we think about this idea, this notion of power and where it comes from, I'm talking on one realm of it being human, where I'm looking at another person or a group or an organization who has some kind of authority or more resources, and that puts you in like positions of power. Of course, what you're asking me about is a higher power, and that governs everything. To me, that's like not my examination. My examination is, what are we doing? How are we looking in our individual lives at what our circumstances are and how we can move from those? And I'm of the strongest belief that the language we use really affects our thinking on that.
I'm glad you said that.
Mm-hmm.
Language governs thought.
Mm-hmm.
Is the English language broad enough to cover our conversation, though?
Probably not. I mean, I would say,
Definitely
there's so many languages in the world. I would have to say no. I think that you raise an interesting point, because I started looking at Sanskrit and some other languages for like comparable words to empower. And there aren't comparable words like in the way that we use it in English, because of this idea that there are gods or higher, there's something else at work, some other forces affecting and impacting the way we move. And so it's very interesting once you start breaking it down on a very linguistic level, like, well, what do some other cultures think about this idea, this notion that power is individualized? Well, even with me, power, what I'm arguing in this book is not that it's solely individualized. There's no way no man is an island. So there's no way we can live and have it be completely isolated that, oh, I, LaNysha, think that I'm going to accomplish whatever. I'm going to do that all on my own. No way. Like, is that true?
So this is one thing I haven't heard you allude to, Doc, is our families and the traditions created by the traditions that we carry on, that we inherited from our parents, grandparents, and so forth. What about that power? When you find out that your great-great-grandmother was a queen in Senegal or the Caribbean, or you find out that your great-great-great-great-grandfather was a general.
Mm-hmm.
What about the history out of which we come, our family history?
Mm-hmm.
To find out that your grandmother tells you that you look like your great aunt, or you eat the same way as your great grandfather.
Yeah, I definitely think we really getting down to the heart of the word power, right? Like, what is that? And like, I've been talking a lot about power, like external power, right? Somebody and on a human platform realm where somebody else is controlling, impacting, or potentially influencing other people. This idea of power over, right? Where it's pretty much the opposite of empowerment, but those two words share a similar meaning. Now, when you're talking about power from your history, from your roots, from what you maybe you didn't know right offhand, but you've come to learn, and the power that that's part of you, right? That comes from inside. And this idea of power is more like, I think of it like an energy. I don't think of it like there's only a finite amount, right? There's not a finite amount of how much connection you can have to your ancestors.
All right. Wait a minute, Doc. Let me ask you this. Who's got the power?
Who's got it?
And how can you tell? I dated a woman once who said, this is a white man's world. And that relationship didn't last longer than a Baltimore speed camera because I thought she had bumped her freaking head. I thought the world belonged to all of us.
It does.
I thought my presence was just as good as anybody else's, that the sun shines on everybody and that the world belongs to whoever goes out there and takes it. And then after they take the world, because say it is a particular group of people's world, then what about the rest of us?
Yeah, I think that notion of power.
I'm not chosen because I don't think the English language is sophisticated enough to explain the nuances and the chicanery, especially when it comes down to American racism, which leads me to a whole other question. If you lived in China, would you be saying this?
Probably not. Because power resides.
If you lived in Russia or South Africa, Namibia.
I don't think so, because I think what we're getting at, and whether or not, right, we're using English or another European language for that matter, because some of the European languages are comparable in terms of how power as a thing is perceived. But you're really getting at these misconceptions that I talk about, right, where people think that there's this idea that power is finite, right? So power is a resource that is only distributed among certain people, white people, men, pick a category, it's only for them. The second idea purports that we need approval, promoting this idea that we need to get power from some other source. I've talked about that kind of a lot. And this other misconception has to do with this idea that if I have some power, your loss means if I have some power, maybe I take it from somebody else. And this means that this other group loses. And I think when we talk about civil rights, when we talk about politics, when we were talking about which groups occupy which positions, that's the notion of power that we're talking about. Somebody wins, somebody loses. This is external. My whole argument is that power in and of itself, that's one construction, that's one way of thinking about it. What I'm making the case for is that there's another way to think about this, which has to do with the metaphysical, where, we're not talking only about what you can see. It's about what's inside. Who is influencing you? What's your roots? What's your history? How then does that impact how you see yourself and your capacity? That's an energy. That's not a thing.
I got a challenge for you right now.
Yeah.
I want to send my power through this computer screen and punch Donald Trump right in his forehead.
Okay.
Not a good use of power.
I would say that because it inherently wants to hurt somebody, probably not.
I don't want to hurt him. I want to get him back on track. I kind of want to push him on, just.
Yeah, but you think you think you're not gonna punch somebody? It's not gonna hurt him. I mean, it's gonna hurt.
No, I want to nudge him. It's like somebody's about to step into a train, and you like nudge him. You gotta hit him hard because the dummy about to jump on the track. You like nudge him. The elbow might have hit him in the jaw. Okay, the elbow might have hit him in the jaw.
A lot of us will say that about our good friend Kanye, for that matter, since we brought up Trump. But I think that, you raised a really interesting point, because people are like, oh, great, my power, I want to use it to impact other people. I want to use it to do something. Again, if we look at that, even on a level of intent, what makes your power better than somebody else's? This idea, that very idea.
I have an answer for you.
It's not what I'm about. Yeah.
I have an answer for you.
What's the answer?
A bigger gun. Power is defined in the real world with who has the best weapons. When you think of this country and the takeover, when the Europeans came and the indigenous peoples, some who were dark, some who were light, were already here. The Europeans took this land because they had better weaponry. They had guns, while the enemy they were going against had bows and arrows, and they had more bullets, imaginably. And they were organized. Remember, the French came this way, the Spanish, then the English. The English were actually the last ones of those three to come to this part of the world. And then it's not like they liked each other. I think France might have had the best ships at the time than all of them. Because if you look at Canada, that was the French. If you look at Florida, it was owned by Spain until 1831. The same with Louisiana. Was that France? Louisiana, I guess it was French. But that brings to mind the impact of these various languages on America. Have you ever been to New Orleans? In downtown New Orleans, they celebrate, I'm thinking about this one fountain, French and Spanish culture in a way that us here in Baltimore, we would never fathom that. I mean, Baltimore history is straight Francis Scott Key, racist, white, black. But down in Louisiana, it's much more cultured. It's a lot more blending, more of a gumbo. People getting along, not as black and white, more gray. Matter of fact, in New Orleans had some of the richest black people in America because the French and the Spanish were a little different with racism as were the British. I think the British were very poor at the time. So a lot of the British who came here were criminals. We've heard that growing up, but clearly they were kicking out the criminals and sending them to America, or people who had warrants. Like if America, a lot of black people got warrants, so they would be looking if a revolution happened to go somewhere where they could escape their warrants. I don't know how we got all the way over here.
I don't know, but I think I want to say, like, you're looking at power. This is also one of the reasons why empower has bothered me, because I think this word, this notion, it requires you to think about one group over another group, somebody being subjected to somebody else. And there are elements of that in our social world. I'm not discounting that as a fact. One of the things I wanted to do was, when I coined this term me power by flipping M to me, I really wanted to have a phrase that describes our ability to realize and exude our authentic self in how we live our life, and not think of it as something that we can get, something that somebody else gives us, something that is a thing. It's an energy. And so we can use this energy to create change in our lives and the world around us. So when you talk about, wanting to knock somebody upside the head.
No, Donald Trump. Donald Trump in particular. I wanted to punch him in the forehead to get him back on track because he seems very off track.
When you talk about that, and we can name some other leaders in that, I think that that kind of way of grabbing their attention is not one way that I would say me power functions, because me power is about unleashing the best in yourself and others. And there are different techniques and tactics for how to do that.
Can you help Donald Trump? Can you help Donald Trump become a better human being? I'm telling you, it's too late. It's 65 years too late. I'm telling you, me power. I'm going to tell you something, lady. I'm going to write a book. Me power is pulling that belt off your husband and spanking them kids. I'm with Bernie Mac. What Donald Trump did not get was his ass whipped. That's what he didn't get. If somebody didn't pull a belt out and correct that boy properly. And they left sweat all on his upper lip. They should have spanked him and spanked him effectively to correct his selfish behavior. When I saw him fussing with a 13-year-old girl on world television, you knew that man was a nut. He fussing with a 13-year-old sweet little girl who's trying to save the planet. That's when you knew that the devil is real. Yeah, and he looked like Donald Trump with sweat on his upper lip.
I want to say, I don't know if I can help that man. I don't think he's an empowered person.
Oh, you want me power? What happened to me power?
Wait a minute. Me power, it's funny that you bring up this idea
a glass of holy water and you sprinkle it on him 4 times. You throw it on him.
You need something, but you're really getting at this idea that it's more than just an idea. It's more than just an energy. It's operationalized in activity. So what does it mean when we look at someone's actions and how they then impacting somebody else? Normally when we're talking about empower, it's just like somebody receives something from somebody else, right? You want to help the girls in Africa go to school and read, and so we're going to pump tons of money in books, and that will then empower them. This is not that where is the action? Where's the principled action, and where's the emphasis on who they are and how they're moving to improve their own life, right? Like resources help, but there is an element that requires us to take an examination of what comes from within inside. I mean, this is I don't know about
some people deserve to be dominated.
Not at all. No, I'm just saying that sometimes
let's look at Boko Haram. I think it was like 40, 50 young Nigerian girls who got swept up by Boko Haram. They were held hostage, let go the girls, this whole thing. Whose side did we pick? This is Africa, the oldest land on earth. Boko Haram, let the rest of the world say they were wrong. Boko Haram might have thought they were doing some Islamic fundamentalist type of activity. Who's wrong?
Definitely the folks who are violating Boko Haram, the terrorist group, snatching girls and violating their humanity. That's not me power, any violation of another human being, that is not empowerment. That has nothing to do with uplifting anybody. That doesn't have anything to do with making our world, improving our world. Short-sighted.
Well, when I think of South Africa and how the Dutch came from, the Netherlands, they come down to South Africa, they set up camp in South Africa, and now they own De Beers. A diamond is a girl's best friend. But the diamonds that come out of South Africa, a black land, are controlled by Europeans. That ain't power. They took my SHIT. I want it back. And so you got people living in South Africa for centuries now who are slaves. They go to work in the diamond mines. The European is making most of the money. They're living in squalor. Soweto, Johannesburg, in Luanda, not far from South Africa, some of the richest property in the world, but also some of the greatest, some of the richest property, but some of the gravest poverty. And what do we do when the dictator is black? He got to go too. It don't matter.
I think you're taking it to the next political level. I for sure. I purposely kind of think of it. I wanted to challenge this notion because I feel like what you're talking about and everything that you're raising is exactly what I'm making a case that, like, that way of thinking about we got to take what's ours, we got to take from some other people to get what's ours. That notion is not.
They keep doing that. I see a pattern of behavior. Like, remember when Belgium got bombed? And then people on Facebook were changing. I saw black people changing their profile picture. We support Belgium. And I want to say, do you know what the Belgians did in the Congo?
Well, yeah, you're talking about colonialism and how it functions
King
and like the
Leopold, it's still
effects.
colonialism.
I mean, yeah, and the effects of it, and then the consequences of that.
So how am I feel sorry for a rapist? I don't feel sorry for you. And don't ask me to. They want me to have an opinion about Ukraine. Time out. You done just got 40 billion of my dollars. I want to talk about Africa. I want to talk about the Caribbean and what that $40 billion can do for my people. I'm no disrespecting nobody else, but I'm talking about my people. Or when Haiti, when the Haitians come to the border and men on horseback greet them at the border and hit them with whips. I don't see other groups of people going through this type of indignation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I need a gun. Or some good energy. I did hear you.
I don't know about you.
I did hear you saying this term, vibrations. I don't have a gun. My father was a film director. I do have a spear around here from Tanzania. I don't want a gun because I'm liable to shoot somebody.
I wonder what you thought, what you would think about my argument that, you know, me power is this notion of knowledge of self and principled action in 5 areas, right? And so this is
I
how
know
I break it down.
myself. It's them other people that don't know their damn self who the problem. And as
Well,
you were talking, I was thinking about, you got a decent classroom. You're a kid. You're a 4-year-old, first class. Everybody cool. But it's one little kid, and we don't know where they come from, but you know the mother and the father off the hook. And that little kid, little Johnny, is disrupting the whole damn class because little Johnny didn't get his hind parts whipped. To know how to act right and respect other people's stuff and keep his hands to himself. A little bully.
yeah, I think, I mean, that's old school. That's definitely old school.
Some people, they greedy and they stingy. They want everything for themselves and they don't want you to have nothing. That's some type of mental illness. Little Johnny needs some couple hours of therapy today. And little Johnny is Donald Trump when he was a kid.
Well, I could tell. I could tell. I think there's a lot more at play in his behavior.
I mean, I look at my neighborhood. I live in West Baltimore, 21217, one of the most socioeconomically challenged communities in the state of Maryland. And people do sell drugs here. And I look at the impact of drugs on a group of people where education is not the top priority. In my household, and I've always lived in the inner city, but education was first and foremost in my mother and father's house. You're going to learn, you're going to read, you're going to write, you're going to do math, and you're going to bring me A's. Those were the rules. Here's another set of rules. At 18, you're leaving. In the meantime, don't bring no kids in here. And number 3, own your house. Old school. And she batted 4 for 4, my mama. Bring a baby in my mother's house like she gonna watch it. You done bumped your damn head.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where you want me to go with that. I for sure feel like, think about what you said about, you know, who are in our family, who we are reminded, like who, you know, based on how we behave and some of our mannerisms and who is reminded of whomever down the line.
Let me ask you this, Doc. How is it our ancestors, fresh out of slavery, accomplished more than we have over 150 years later? Our ancestors, slavery ended 1865. They built colleges, they built churches, they built businesses, like in Tulsa that had 36 square blocks of black businesses in 1921. How is it the least educated generation of black people when it comes to public education, schools? This generation had the least, and they accomplished more than we do now with all of our degrees, with all of our six-figure salaries, with our houses with picket fences. We are closing HBCUs. Thank God that Neon Deion Sanders is coming to the rescue like a super black man, but we need more of that. And I love what Deion Sanders is doing. That's me power. That is me power. He said he's going to use his celebrity. See, I'm cautious about using the English language because it has imprisoned not just our actions but our thoughts. But Neon, you're supposed to go to the NFL, Major League Baseball, make a lot of money, and then go live in a millionaire's palace somewhere. Neon Deion, whose health is challenged. I think he's got a challenged leg, uses his celebrity at Jackson State. And then I just saw Snoop Dogg over there doing the dance with the Jackson State football team. That's me, pal. In Jackson State, when you look outside of the football stadium, it looked like Santan, looked like a war zone. But he took his celebrity. That's me, pal, for me.
That's right. That's right. That's absolutely right. That's a way better example than these other jokers we were talking about.
But so many of our athletes would never do what Neon Deion. So many of our athletes don't know the history. So we think now, oh, my boy made it to college. He got a scholarship. So now his dumb ass is over there running ball for some college. He get the money. They throw the white girls on him. Ain't nothing wrong with the white girls. You like white girl, that's fine. But we know how they treat our athletes. They stand you up. You do the Columbine. My muscles bigger. I can run faster. And then you get in the NFL. And then next thing you know, everybody around you is white. You have no identification with the black community whatsoever. And for them to get to where Neon Deion is, it don't look like it's happening. Because that boy gonna get caught up in Hollywood or one of the videos or the movie, but he ain't never coming back to Jackson State, ever. Is he?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I think it's true. Like, you know, like based on the social world we live in, if you come out of whatever community you're from and say it had a lower socioeconomic status, you get some money, you come up, typically you aren't going to go back to that community. Most are not going to do that. And I think it is a good exemplar that you talk about with Deion Sanders to go back into those communities where he maybe never lived or communities that were like where he's from to give back.
And I don't know if he lived there, but he relates to it
very well. To it in a way that
he's the hoods.
It's part of him. Yeah, it's like part of him.
And he won't allow excuses. And not just from the kids, but from the community. I grew up in an era, LaNysha, where we saw baseball. You don't see baseball much anymore. You don't see black men in Baltimore playing baseball like I did when I was a child. We used to dominate baseball, but now a baseball bat is $400. So by the time your 2 or 4-year-old gets to be 12 and 14, that bat might be $500. And you may have to choose between STEM camp and a baseball bat. And I'm pretty certain that STEM camp is going to be cheaper than that baseball bat. But you'll make a lot more money for a longer period of time. Baseball, you know, we push our young people into sports, and that's such a short period. How long you can play at optimal health.
What would you say about this idea of knowledge of self? And
Did Michael Haney get you distracted?
Michael
Haney. He has a tendency to do that. Well, let's go and effectively distract you as if you didn't have a lot of stuff already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So his name is, we call him Walter Cronkite. He's studying to be a journalist.
I don't know if I want to go there on that topic, but everybody's entitled
She
to
had
feel
you
how they want
on
to feel.
the couch, baby.
So I know that we our time is coming to an end, and I didn't know if
Lady, you can stay as long as you want. I'm gonna shut up. You take the floor.
no,
Please.
you know, what I wanted to say was really about this. A lot of times, like what we've been concentrating on a lot is this idea of power and how it it can be oppressive to a lot of people.
What about
And
church people?
what about what?
Church people.
I don't know if I want to be talking about those.
I'll talk about it. Damn, church people get on my nerves. You ain't been to church in 5 years. You get there and the usher at the front door. Oh, you got to go over there. You got to do all this. Hold up. I thought church was like the triage. Church more political than the goddamn on Washington, D.C. You ever seen church politics? The lady with the big head, she mad at the other lady over there with the bigger head. Oh, boy. And then how come they still got a building fund? They've had a building fund since 1857. Ain't they built the building yet? And where that money really go? And who cooked them good biscuits in the kitchen? That's who I want to meet.
I don't, you know, you pop it off. I don't know what to say because I'm like, wow, you know, I hadn't thought about that.
People. Some of them church mothers be wrong. They be dead wrong. I went into a church around the corner. I swear to beans to you, the man had wigs on the wall. This was 25 years ago. He had wigs on the wall. I'm like, who wigs are they? Apparently, he preaches against wigs, and they are wigs that came off during church service, and they stayed nailed to the wall. I'll never forget it. Right around the corner on Winchester.
Or are you telling jokes right now?
On Winchester Street near Gilmore, it was a church, and they had wigs nailed to the wall. I saw it with my own eyes. Donald Trump ain't got nothing on me. Me power.
Yeah, I definitely I don't know what to say at the end, but I'm very excited about the book party launch that's happening on Saturday.
Here's a fair question for you.
Would you say that me power requires self-reflection and awareness in order to be effective? Exactly. I mean, the definition that I'm advocating for is that me power is knowledge of self plus principled action. So what are the principles we're taking? What are the principles that we're enacting?
Can you say that again?
Yeah, knowledge of self and principled action in 5 areas of practice, right? So I break it down in the book. The first is embrace your barriers. The second is focus on your strengths. The third is speak for your life. The fourth is choose your guide. And the fifth is ritualize your reflection. And I really am of the mindset that the more that we know ourselves and know our history, like brother Glover has been talking about a lot on this call, is knowing yourself.
Brother Glover. Don't get jealous, Michael.
The more that we can know who we are, know where we come from, know what we're about, it doesn't mean that that is going to fix us to a certain future. And in fact, it just means we have more insight into who we are and what's informed us. But then what actions are we going to take to move us to where we want to go? And it really puts us in the driver's seat. So we're not looking externally for somebody else to come along and give us something in order for us to take the next step. Okay. I think that's a very big misconception that I'm putting out, and I want to really talk about, because if power comes from outside, then somebody else or something else is going to have to we're going to need to get it in order to do something. And I'm saying it's already inside. You already got everything you need, but you may not have that insight. You may not see it that way. And so there are some mindset shifts that we can take and actions through practice to move us in a more empowered way. And not just us, as individuals, but us as part of community, us as part of a collective, and do things in ways that aren't like the power constructions that we've spent a lot of time talking about. I'm fundamental. That's my fundamental belief and argument.
What about identifying other like-minded people?
What do you mean?
It seems to me what we lack, and I'm speaking from a Black American perspective, considering America and its unkind history, I think the only thing we lack is organization.
By we you mean Black people?
Yes. You mentioned Kanye. The Jewish community is not as large as the Black community, especially when you throw in 1 billion people from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And I would submit to you that it's language that separates us.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us have been trained in America to look at an African and immediately say them, as opposed to our brothers and sisters. We have been inundated with Tarzan movies, which has many of us thinking you can drive to Africa, or that there's a white man named Tarzan flying on a vine through the Black community, and he's going to save the Black people. I think colonialism has done something horrific to our minds, where we've forgotten our power. That true power is within. And why can't you and I unite, and not so much to beat up any other group of people, but just to strengthen and heal our community, like the Hutus and the Tutsis. When you tell an African American about something in Africa, we should know it like the back of our hand, the same way a Ukrainian American knows what's going on in Ukraine. But we've been conditioned and trained to not know anything about Morocco. We think the Egyptians were white.
Yeah.
We forget about the role that Blacks played in slavery. And then we want to celebrate everybody else's culture when everybody else celebrates our culture. You notice that in America, Black people want to look white and white people want to look Black. It's the wildest thing. I've seen Africans putting on bleaching cream. Chocolate brothers, melanated sisters. And they lightening. What is this? We want to be lighter.
I don't know anything about that.
I want to be darker. I want to be darker.
Go out in the sun.
No, I'm grateful for what I got. Okay, so let me shut up again, give you some chance to make some points, because they're not going to be talking about me. Where can people get the book?
Yeah, absolutely. Folks can get the book.
Question.
We have workshops to equip people to readjust and apply in the real world. Absolutely.
I got 2 more for you.
We lack the understanding of the power of words and mobility around one mission. Now, this is very... Oh, I think you should tell us about your event. Can we touch on that? Yeah, for sure. So on the topic of workshop...
That's me, power producer. Thank you.
On the topic of workshops and events, and really taking the concepts and making them concrete and working through, like, how do you operationalize this for your own individual life? I have on my website, LaNysha.com, I have a bunch of events coming up throughout the rest of the year. And a lot of events that I'm doing are free, are complimentary, and in conjunction with other groups, because I don't think that access and like getting information you should pay for off the jump. So this is like an entry point into a concept that you can really personalize for your life. Then we can talk about engagement over time. But the event on Saturday is going to be in Baltimore. It's going to be at the Brick Rose Exchange, a local small business in Baltimore owned by Bianca Jackson. It's a commercial event space, and I'm very much looking forward to being in that space at 11 a.m., 11 to 2 p.m. We are going to have, it's going to be an environment where when you think about a book launch and a book signing, so I have a VIP crowd, over 200 people pre-ordered the book, Me Power, and they'll be able to come and pick it up at the event. And folks,
where is this place?
What do you mean, where is the place?
The address.
Oh, where's the address? Yeah, 1 second. You want me to put it in the chat? I don't know if I have access to the chat, but it's on Boston Street, 2216 Boston Street in Baltimore. And so in any case, the vibe is going to be very celebratory because a lot of things were at play to kind of jump. Life happens to many of us, but in a lot of ways, I almost didn't make it this year and almost didn't make it to finish the book. So it's going to be a very...
Oh, you can't skate by something like that. You can't just skate over something like that.
It's going to be a very celebratory time to really highlight the accomplishment of getting through 2 years of research and writing the book and then getting it out, given all of the barriers that I faced personally to get this out in the world. And it starts at 11 a.m. and I'm very much looking forward to seeing folks there. And you can purchase the book there if you haven't already. But it's going to be a good time. I'm very much looking forward to it.
And you just skated over, it seemed like the most important part of the interview.
Oh, what happened? Okay, so I know we're getting towards the end, but I think like
take your time. This is Black Power, Black Me Power. You can stay as long as you want, but you gotta finish the story. What happened that you can tell us?
For sure. So I had COVID pneumonia at the end of January. I didn't know I had COVID pneumonia, so I just thought that I was. We knew we got COVID, my whole family, and I was the sickest, and I was under the bed like for 2 weeks. And once I started feeling better, I came out of it. I was like, all right, great. We retested. We didn't have it. It was cool.
You thought you were gonna be a goner?
Well, not from that. So what happened is 2 weeks after I get better, because I was really sick, like sick to where you should go to the hospital, but I didn't know any better because I just thought it was a really bad illness. I was waking up, I was going, I was moving, and then I would just go back to sleep. I think I slept for 3 days like this. But I was being monitored and it seemed fine. So after 2 weeks of that, I get better and I am better. And then the day that I'm feeling my best, I have a cardiac arrest, and I was out, and my husband had to perform CPR, revitalize me. He wasn't there when I went out. I was with my 4-year-old, and he was out. He came home, performed CPR, saved me enough, and the paramedics came, EMTs, and had to work on me for about half an hour to revitalize me. I was in the ICU for 2 weeks. I was in a coma, and when I came to, you can imagine, I had a baby 2 years ago in June 2020, and you can imagine, I'd never been inside a hospital in my life other than to give birth. And so you can imagine if you wake up and you're in the ICU, you're thinking, how did I get in here? Okay, where am I?
You thought you was in a horror movie. You got all of these tubes in you.
Get me out of here. This is not where it's gonna be. And then like at that point, I had some deadlines. So the first thing is like, where my kids?
About work. You think about work.
Well, the first thing is, where my kids? Okay, how you get me out of here? Where my kids? And I gotta do this. I gotta do that. And it's so fascinating because to have something like that happen and kind of just upend the way you see yourself, how you move through life is that's one thing. Number two, to come from that point to accomplish the things you had on your docket.
You set me up. You was going to tell me about this, but you made me pull this out because otherwise you would have started with this.
No, I don't think so.
Because I can hear, never would have made it. I can hear that playing in the backdrop. I can see some tears jerking and all of that. You a trip. I ain't messing with you, Dr. LaNysha. You out here playing with people.
What? How?
Never
How do you
would have made it.
I don't think I would have started there, but I do think that that's a really key part of the story because I think there are a
That's
lot of
it.
there, but that's not what the book is about. There are a lot of book launches where you go and the author will read it and
I
sign it and give it
disagree.
out.
I disagree. You said, "Where my baby?" What else you say? When you came to conscious, where's my baby? What else?
I'll get out of here, and then
How do I
how am
get
I
out of
gonna?
here? And
How do I get this body of work done? I spent 2 years of my life investing time, effort, energy, sweat, blood, and tears into this. So I really needed to finish it. But what I wanted to say is I don't start.
that is me power right there.
That is me power right there. I don't think I
Yeah.
start.
Oh
I
my
don't
gosh,
think.
I'm okay. Where's my job? Oh, here's the computer. Let me go to work.
Wait a
That
minute. Wait a
is
minute.
me power. That's saying ain't nothing gonna stop this book. Oh my God, you done preached this sermon up here. Hallelujah. Where your book at? Where your book at? Let me see it. Show us the book. I'm gonna get off the screen. Sell yourself. You got a minute. Give me your 60-second speech.
Yeah. So Me Power, please check it out. It's about how we chart our course in life where power comes from within, not from outside. And it's not only about our individual self, but how we do that in communion with others. Please check it out. Go to LaNysha.com, LANYSHA.com. Check it out. And also, you can find it on Amazon or wherever books are sold. Thank you.
My name's Donnie Glover. Have a good day. Good morning, world.